And we're going to go back to Canberra now because joining us live is the Veterans Affairs Minister, Andrew Gee. Minister, good morning to you. It's been a few years away. Our crowds have been away for a couple of years now for these dawn services for obvious reasons. Good to be back.
Yes, good morning, Pete. Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to see our Anzac services back and our communities coming back together again to honour the enormous service and sacrifice of so many Australians throughout the generations.
How is the mood and how is the feeling this morning in Canberra?
Well, I think the mood was one of coming together again, and I think there was an element of relief that we can all join together again. A lot of folks haven't been able to do that, so a lot of people here are catching up with old friends and colleagues and comrades. And it's just a time, I think, to come together and as a community and as a country and just reflect on that enormous sacrifice of the over 102,000 Australians who have given their lives in the service of our nation. And I think as I listened to the address today by Michael Ruffin, who is a veteran of Vietnam, amongst other campaigns, it just brought home how lucky we are to have men and women who are prepared to put on a uniform and defend our freedom and defend Australia. And we are so very lucky to have such wonderful men and women who are prepared to do that. And today is a day that we honour them, and we also remember all of those men and women who've given so much for our nation, including the more than 102,000 who have given their lives in our service for us.
And this is the first Anzac Day that we've had since the withdrawal from Afghanistan. How does the war in Afghanistan shape our Anzac story?
Very much so, and I think before the service today we had a number of stories that were read out to the assembled audience of stories of service and sacrifice through the generations, and the stories of the Middle East campaigns of Iraq and Afghanistan are now very much part of our national story and our national history. And we have so much to be proud of. The men and women who served in Afghanistan defended freedom, and they went to fight terror, and we'll never know how many lives were saved because of their actions over there. They not only helped to build a country, but they prevented maybe countless terrorist attacks throughout the world. We'll never know how many lives were saved because of what they did. But aren't we lucky that they were there doing that? And 41 Australians lost their lives in the Afghanistan campaign. And today is a day that we honour and remember them and all Australians who've lost their lives, but also their families as well, because there are many grieving families today, just as there are veterans. It can be a difficult day for a lot of people. And so today we think of them and we remember them and the sacrifice of our diggers and our troops, but also the family members as well, who pay a very high price as well to have their loved ones put on a uniform and defend Australia and our freedom and the freedom of the world.
Yeah, and so much of Anzac Day is about remembering the past, but it's also a nod to the future. I mean, we've got war in Ukraine right now. We've got China's expanding threat in our region. Again, a reminder that war and conflict is an ever-present danger. Very
much so, and this year we commemorated the 80th anniversary of the bombing of Darwin, and when I was up there talking to a wonderful veteran who was 101 years old, who's a wonderful man, was telling me about that experience and how vulnerable we were. And his name is Brian, and I said, Brian, where were you and what were you doing when the air raid sirens went off? Were you able to return fire at the planes that were coming in? And he said, well, there wasn't much we could do because all of the troops were overseas. We did what we could. It's a salutary reminder that our nation always does need to be prepared and that threats can emerge at any time. And as a country, we can never be complacent. Just look what is happening at Ukraine. The President of Ukraine addressed our Parliament and said that evil knows no borders. It can cross them at any time and will cross them at any time. And so as we commemorate Anzac Day today and think of that enormous service and sacrifice and give our thanks and gratitude to the men and women of the ADF, we also have to remember how important it is to be prepared and stand ready, and how lucky we are that we have men and women in Australia who are prepared to stand ready and indeed are on deployments in Australia and around the world for us. And we need to be forever grateful for that. And so I would ask today that all Australians, if you can, please get out and attend an Anzac Day service and pay your respects to our veterans and their families and give thanks for all that they have done in our name. And if you can't get out to an Anzac Day service, watch the televised services on TV or on the radio, or just have your own moment of silence to pause and reflect and remember that sacrifice and all that those men and women have done in our name.
Okay, Andrew Gee, Veterans Affairs Minister, thanks for your time this morning. We'll talk to you again soon.